a great class.
Hey guys, happy Friday. We have a really fun class for you guys today. Carmi has prepared a presentation that is all about Czech crystal. So if you've ever wondered about Czech crystal, how it's made, where it comes from, and a little bit of the history, you're in for a treat today, and some beautiful, glamorous images of crystals. So I'm going to turn it over to Carmi, and then when she's done with her presentation, we're going to switch back and I'll do a demo of a project for you using that crystal. So there we go. Perfect.
Thanks, Danielle. I hope everyone can hear me okay. I'm going to actually share my screen. And hope that is easy for everyone to see. So welcome. Danielle and I missed you last week. So we ended up chatting on Friday to make up for not having a class together with everybody. So welcome back. And this is the first class that John Bead is presenting that is actually not using seed beads. So this is interesting for all of us, and it's a great opportunity for me to put a spotlight on some new products that have arrived at Michael's. So this tiny introduction will not allow me to completely sum up everything there is to know about the Crystal Valley, the Czech Republic, and the amazing glass beads that they actually do make and that are now available at Michael's. But I wanted to give you a little bit of a 101 so that you have a better sense of how great they are. And hopefully it could send a few of you down a road of doing a little bit more research or heading over to Preciosa's website to learn more. I'm going to also reference this presentation by letting you know that there are many, many designers who know so much more about Preciosa crystal than me. They know the colors, they know the sizes, they know them instinctively, they can spot them at a distance. And so I know a little bit, and there are probably a few people watching that know even more. So I'm going to stick to very, very simple references. First of all, here is a quick glance at the packaging that you'll be looking for. It's bead landing. It says Preciosa on it in fairly tall lettering, and it's Czech crystal. And so this is how it will appear when you're actually in the store. And because at Michael's you do shop by color, here's how it actually looks like on display. And so this is my opportunity to, make very clear, I do understand that Czech crystal is more expensive. You're going to know more and why by the end of this presentation. But for Danielle and I, we are very, very aware that quite a few crafters and designers are on a budget. And so if it's not a Preciosa Czech bead product that you were looking for, maybe if you're in this section, you'll find something similar from an alternate manufacturer. But if you're looking for the Preciosa Czech, this is how it looks, and this is it on the wall. Preciosa crystals actually go back 500 years, which is why you could, take a university degree in learning about this company and what's happened in this part of the world in the development of glass. And so Preciosa glass making goes back to 1548 in the Crystal Valley of Bohemia, where it still is today, 500 years later. So here's a very quick glance at them.
Only one place in the world, Crystal Valley, unites natural resources with tradition and passion for an ancient craft. For centuries, people have been building on their skills and expertise with the latest technological methods. But they have become who they are because of where they are. Which is why they strive to give back as much as they can. It is this unique atmosphere of Crystal Valley that helps them breathe life into each fragment of glass and to shape dreams into reality.
So Preciosa as a company was founded upon certain ideals that have remained with them since the beginning. And for them, it's about quality, durability, and innovation. And as someone who's worked with them for a long time, I know this to be true. So some of the highlights for this area of the world over the last few centuries is I wanted to point out that Preciosa has introduced the world to truly captivating and timeless quality of authentically crafted bohemian crystal since 1948. So as a company, that's when they came together. But the art of glassmaking really began in Bohemia when independent ateliers sprung up in 1548. So I honestly wish there were photos of this period of time because I would really love to have seen what this looked like. And so you've got all these amazing artisans convening in this one area. 100 years later, local jewelers are starting to create the first glass bead necklaces, which quickly became sought after from aristocracy. Obviously would have loved them because they were exquisitely polished and perfectly cut stones. So this is the beginning of costume jewelry because, semi-precious stones weren't always available. In 1688, they discovered a new glassmaking method, which allowed them to make pristinely clear glass. So this is the first, quite a few hundred years for us. But once they were able to do that, that you didn't have to actually get true crystal from actually, getting it from rock, that they could actually have clear crystal that could withstand polishing. So that was a really big deal. And I know this is the reason why Czech crystal is actually in Versailles, because it was that great. This gentleman, George Strauss, he invented the first rhinestone in 1760. And it's the sand that's in this region that allows them to make this amazing glass. So again, the rhinestone, which we all know and love, it goes back numerous years, and somebody did invent it. So 1715 Bohemian glassmakers discovered how to do colored glass. So that began several hundred years ago. Bohemian jewelers in 1898, they started to revolutionize the industry with a new technique for setting crystals in metal jewelry cups. Those techniques are probably very similar to the way they are now. 1908, the machine cut jewelry, the chatons that we're all seeing quite regularly now, that's when they went into production. So the first time producing the chatons with really proprietary cutting and polishing machines, and that created a major boom in design and applications. So here's a quick look again at Preciosa. 1948, again, I come back to when Preciosa was officially established. Lots was happening in the world at that time with World War II, and the state joined 24 of the Valley's most established ateliers and factories to create the one single crystal manufacturer. So beyond 1948, so much more happened, so much more innovation, but a lot of that's available for you to read online. Now, let's talk about the crystal that's available at Michael's. So here is a quick glance at them. What you're looking at is the most popular colors and sizes that are available. So there are 62 Preciosa crystal strands at Michael's now. The colors, I'll talk about a little bit more, and the fact that there's AB colors, but 4mm bicones are the most popular sized bead in our crystal families. So there's 26 options there, and 6mm bicones, there's 24 options. And then there are only 12 options for round. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that. I wanted to point out that for people who've been making jewelry for a long time, we switch often between the term bicone and rondelle a lot. It's the same thing. In North America, most of us say bicone for that shape of a bead, but Preciosa does officially call them rondelles. So if you're wondering why sometimes we say one thing and another, it means the same when we're talking about the bead. The important thing is for patterns, it's the mm size in crystal that's important. So Danielle will reference 4mm, 6mm. It's like shopping for seed beads when we have projects and we say you need an 8.0 or a 10.0 size bead. In crystals, it's about the mm. So you'll see sizing referenced a great deal. If you don't use a Preciosa bead, and if you see another brand on the shelf, try and see if the MM is actually listed. So that will help you use patterns where sizing is important. So here is the shape of the bicone and the shape of round beads. The Preciosa bicones and their round beads, what they're legendary for is precision cutting. So how you see in this illustration, the numerous cuts that are needed to make these beads, it's more apparent when I show it to you this way. So Preciosa's beads are almost perfect. And one of the things that jewelers and designers learn very quickly is the extra that Preciosa does after all this time is their holes are also almost perfect. They actually bevel them a tiny amount so that when you string with them, it's less likely that the glass will cut into your stringing material. So these are unbelievable, unbelievable quality cut crystal. And here, in reference to how many cuts are needed, the black and white illustration gives you a sense of how many times a machine has to cut the glass in order to make this shape. You can see with the round beads, way more cuts. This is the reason why round beads are the most expensive. They always have been, depending on which company that you work with. Bicones will always be slightly less expensive than round beads. And again, look at the difference in the numerous cuts that have to be made on one teeny tiny piece of glass for you to get it here at Michael's. If you're new to crystal, one of the things you'll hear a lot is whether it's an AB coating or no AB. So if you go to Michael's for the very first time buying crystal, you're going to think these are the exact same colors side by side, when in fact you're looking at light amethyst and light amethyst AB. So when you get close and you're in Michael's, take a look. The strand that's on the very left has the AB coating, and it has that little extra glam glitter that I know. Like I tend to purchase AB products because I like more glitter, more. If you have a preference, you may stick to the traditional color glass, but that's why you're going to see the strands at Michael's very similar side by side, because they're going to be available in the crystal color and the crystal AB color. So when you're purchasing from Preciosa, It is a premium quality product. It's lasting durability. It's what they're famous for. They're constantly innovating. They're constantly improving their production. It's 5 centuries of traditional know-how. And I wanted you to know that the crystals that you're buying at Michael's are truly coming from the heart of Europe. They are coming from the Czech Republic. And these are the first 3 examples of the classes that Danielle is going to be teaching. And so we're going to start today where she's going to show you how she works with crystals. We're going to move into other classes where we'll start combining crystals with seed beads. And the earrings that you see at the top, I'll have Danielle talk about them a little bit later. Again, combining beads and crystals. So if you're wondering, the Czech seed beads that we're also teaching with, they're from the same company. So everything I'm saying about Czech crystal, I could be saying about the seed beads as well. And so they're from the same company and the same quality. There are 2 classes coming up that aren't even up on Michael's yet, but you can see Danielle is like, once she gets you guys going with the crystals, we're going all out with projects and different techniques and using some of those classic seed bead stitches that you've been learning, and then adding the crystal in for even more glam. Wanted to just conclude with a little comment from myself for those of you who are makers. If you go to all the effort to make handmade tags or your, definitely naming your finished pieces, I would urge you strongly to consider also including the term made with Czech Preciosa crystals, because it is a beautiful brand and it just adds to the quality, and people will know there's a difference between buying a bracelet made with regular crystals and a bracelet made with Preciosa crystals. You can definitely see that in the quality. And that would be it. I'm going to conclude by telling you a little bit more about the company. If I haven't said enough already now to make you a Preciosa crystal fan, want you to know this is a company that they have worked so hard to be recognized as a company that sets the standard around the world. So for them, water is the most important resource in the entire glass making production. They recycle and they refilter all the water that they use. They have very, very strict water waste protocols for their waste disposal. They're committed to emissions reduction. They have certificates for every possible safety thing that you could dream of. They're an equal opportunity employer. In terms of corporate and social responsibility, they've got a foundation that's dedicated to everything from sports and culture to health and education. And more than anything, Preciosa is a company that is dedicated to preserving the craft of glassmaking through educational programs, sponsoring university programs and museums. So that is my very quick introduction to Preciosa crystal. And I hope that gave you a little bit more of an understanding why these beads are special, why they do cost a little bit more, and why if you have never used them, I'd love you to just go in the store and just, hold them side by side with crystals from other companies, and you'll know you're holding the art form in your hand. And I love them, and so pleased that and proud that we're going to be able to teach with them now that they're at Michael's. So Danielle, I think that's everything from me.
There we go. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, cool. So I've got a cool project to share with you guys today. I'm going to grab it from over here behind me. And awesome presentation, by the way. I enjoyed that. So this is such beautiful crystal, and I really felt like all you needed to do with it was just put it on display. And so that's what I did here. I just displayed it prominently on a muted, kind of minimalist chain. And it is super fast design that you can make really quickly. And you can also spin this to be, you know, different things. You could make this into a very cool bracelet. I think it would be neat as a bracelet too. And you could make cluster earrings using the same technique. You could put the, what we're going to make are a bunch of these little wrapped charms basically, and you could string them down some chain, put an ear wire at the top, and it would just be a chandelier of crystal coming down. And so, yeah, so many great ideas. So I thought what I might do today is show you guys some tips and tricks for putting them on a head pin, because sometimes with crystal, when you're working with crystal, you end up with the potential to break them or chip them. And that's heartbreaking when you've got your beautiful crystals out. And so working with wire tools and crystal together can be tricky. So I thought we would just, you know, do a little dive on that and talk about it. And so on my mat, what I have is I have the sample project. So that's this one here. And any colors will be beautiful. You could do, what I did was I took 3 colors and I just kind of went along the wall and I lined up 3 that I thought looked good together. And you don't have to do 3. You could do a solid color. You could do more than 3, less than 3. So there's a little triad here that I thought looked cool. This is the one that's in the handout. But anything you have that sparks for your eye, go for that. That's totally up to you. And so let me put this back so you can see it. It's a little off camera. And Carmi was mentioning the difference between AB finish and a non-AB finish. And so I thought I would just show that. So here's the Tanzanite, or sorry, this is the light amethyst. The Tanzanite is this one here. This is the light amethyst. The AB is the one here. And the non-AB is here. So you can see it's a subtle difference, but definitely that pop of rainbow. So you just have to decide which one you like, right? I tend to go with the AB too. So that's the one that I highlighted in this design, but you could use either. And then the first thing I did was I grabbed a bunch of head pins and I made these little wrapped loops. Now these are full wraps. Some people like to do a simple loop, and it's preference. It really is preference. There's also some other methods for making loops, but the reason I went with this kind of wrap is because you never touch the top of the crystal in the method I'm going to show you. And in a simple loop, of course, you're bringing that wire down to meet the top of the crystal. So you've got basically the flush cut edge of a strong edge of wire, and you're wrapping it down around those round nose pliers, and you get to a point at the top of your bicone where you're actually making contact. And at that point, really possible to make a chip. So, and I've done that before, especially with these really strong head pins that are, you know, kind of full hard versus like a medium soft type of wire. So the type of wire you're using also makes a really big difference. And then there's another method that Carmi was showing me yesterday where you can just roll it straight down. We did that once in our bugle chain jewelry. That method would work too, but again, you're making contact with the top of your bicone when you do that method. So that's the reason I went with this. And I actually worked these alone and then used some little jump rings. These are 4mm jump rings, and I'll show you all the findings that I grabbed for the whole project in just a sec here, but I just use jump rings here to attach it to the chain. And the chain I'm using is this one. And it's just a little fine cable chain. It's really pretty. Here's one out of the wrapping, so a little less reflective. You get 3 of them on a card, which is pretty cool. And it comes with a finding on it. So you don't have to worry about attaching all of this stuff because that's already on there. It just makes it super fast. And there is, of course, there's different options. These are the same head pins, but you can buy a bulk one, or there's a smaller one too, depending on how many you want to make. And that's pretty much everything in the way of materials. For tools, you're going to need a set of round nose pliers, and you're going to want to have some flush cutters and chain nose pliers. And then also in the handout, I included some bent nose pliers. I use those when I do jump rings. So there's the bent nose, but those are optional. All right, so let's go ahead and dive in. I'm going to get some head pins out.
Danielle,
Yeah.
can I just ask you for 1 second? Would you turn over the cards so that they can see how the color is marked when they're picking?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Let me do that really quick. Let's turn them all over. So here's the back of the cards. And so you can see that they've got the color there written as the first item. And if it's AB, it'll note that. And this is also super handy for if you are trying to figure out if you're replacing, like say you bought one and you lost the top of it, you want to go find the other color. You can just remember it by the name instead of having to
Thanks,
match it.
Danielle. And the last question I have right now is your chain length.
Chain length, yes. So that one, it's a predetermined length that comes on this card here. And it looks like it's an 18-inch one. And if you wanted to make it longer, what I would do is I would take this part right here. And if anyone wants to see that, I am happy to demo it. I would take this jump ring right here then. I would open it up, remove this little tag, and then I would get one of my findings packs. This isn't in the handout, but it's something that we use in a lot of our classes. And so we've got lots of them handy. And apologies, I've sorted mine into 2 cases, but it comes with a bunch of jump rings. You can make your own extender chain that way and attach it. And then I've mentioned this in a couple of our like design to sell classes, but if you're making these to sell and you want to offer the standard length here of 18 inches, you can create your own extender chain and sell it separately from your work. So you would maybe just link 1 inch to 1.5 inches worth of jump rings and attach a clasp, and you can match that clasp to whatever you've got going on here. So there's a spring ring in the findings packs, you can match that. And then you sell that chain separately. So somebody can actually just take any necklace on your lineup and attach their own little extender to it. If they're gifting it, they can gift that with it. It gives people the option to wear it long or wear it short. So that's just a little tip I like to share with anyone who sells their work out there. Let's see, does anyone have any questions about materials before I jump into the demo? Sounds good. Okay, so feel free to jump in anytime. I'm going to just start going with making some wraps. So what I did for the sample, let me pull that back out. I hid it from myself somewhere. What I did for the sample, and of course is totally up to you, is I put 3 of my darkest color in the center. And then I went out with 2 colors on the side and then 2 more colors after that. So that was my count for this one. And I've pre-made a few so that we don't have to make all of them before we put them on our chain. But so far I've made 3 of those. So I'll need 1 more of those colors. And I made 2 of these. I'll need 2 more of that. And let's see. I will want 1 more of those because I've made 2 of those. And then I'm going to put my little extra crystals over here. All right. So let's start with our round nose pliers. What you want to do is grab your Bicone and then just get that down to the bottom there. And on your pliers, so if you've never used round nose pliers before, they are a tapered tool. So the fine point at the front, and then it gets a wider diameter the further back on the tool you work. So what I do is I start with a height that I think looks about like 2 wraps. And what I mean by a wrap is when you take and wrap around the wire, there's the height of 2 right there, 2 loops around. And so I just kind of take my tool and measure. That looks about like 2 wraps in height. I place it next to it. You can see it's right about the same. So that's usually how I measure it. And then I'll just bend that forward. And so that's as close as I'm ever going to get to my crystal, really. If I give myself enough space there, I won't even have to touch it when I get my wrap close. So from there, so we had it like this, right? And we bent it forward 90 degrees. Now you want to take your tool and adjust the tool 90 degrees. So it's like that, and take the opportunity to slide a little bit down this way. So the diameter of your loop is bigger than this edge. So like that. And then just go ahead and wrap this around and just gently come around the tool until you meet the point of your wire there. And then at this point, again, you're going to need to adjust your tool another 90 degrees and just continue that loop. And what I like to do here is I like to center my stones. So I'll just hold it kind of like this, right? Well, let me take it off the tool and show you. See how it's kind of, my loop is not above my stone. What I do to fix that is I just bring this part, I'm going to bend this part back a little bit. And so I got something like that. And what I did is I just moved this part. So there, see all that space we've got? That space is going to serve us well now because we're never going to have to touch our crystal. I like to take chain nose pliers at this point and hold my loop. Some people work it while it's on their round nose. I do it this way, and it's just preference. I think both methods will work great. And then I'll take, and this is another one where some people can do this part with their fingers, and that's great. I have a little harder time. I get it bent forward a little bit, but I feel like my wraps will be tighter if I use a tool to help me do this part. So what I'm doing is just grabbing my tool. Just going to pull around. And then once you get to this part, you can just decide, do I have room for a third wrap? I have a lot of space there. I didn't intend to make that much space, but I did. And so you can see like on this one, I did the same thing there. So that one's got a third wrap. You're not going to see that in your design, so don't sweat it. If you want to make one more, I feel like this one needs it. Bring that round this back. And straighten that out. I ended the loop in the back here so I can trim it and flatten it down. So take your flush cutters, and I'll actually hold the part that I want to cut off. And that's one reason using the 2-inch head pins is kind of nice because you'll have this extra. And then again here, I'm not making any contact with my crystal. It's pretty safe there. Just clip that off, and that's all you gotta do. Pretty easy. I'm gonna grab one more tool for my round. These bent nose I mentioned earlier. I'm gonna use them to hold my loop in place while I flatten that little tail down. These nice pointy pliers are good for getting in there. So there's one, and it's a little taller than I intended. So we'll do that maybe 2 more times, and then stop me if you have questions. Because it's I feel like I'm going too fast maybe, but I've got, let's see, I'm going to make 3 more. So we'll do it 3 more times, and then we'll put it on the necklace. So
And I think just watching you go through it more than once is going to be helpful. The first time I just held my breath, and so now I'll be able to just focus. I'm realizing what I've been doing wrong all these years. So you just pointed out, you've really got to keep your tools away from the crystal.
Oh yeah, I mean and I definitely still occasionally break a crystal. It's just something that over time you'll get lots of experience with. And then of course the head pin you choose. I was seeing if we have time at the end, I wanted to show another idea. I was kind of hoping to show another idea that I had about using some softer wire that I found at Michael's. I think it's looking good. I think we'll have time. So, but there's that loop I made again. And then I'm just going to grab these round nose guys and just go around. And we'll do this a few more times. And I got this one right. So it's only going to have 2 wraps. And then I like to hold this part right here while I'm doing my trimming. It serves the purpose of it not flying into my eye because I'm so bad about getting glasses. And I should tell everyone, wear safety glasses. So officially that is what I'm saying. Just don't look at the gallery view right now. All right. Lots of space there, so we're doing good. And I'm just going slow. One way also, I want to show this. This is really cool. Another way to test your connection here is if your Bicone can spin. Can you guys tell I'm able to spin that me bring it over here like that. See, now you've got a really good connection there. Nice loop. And it's got lots of movement.
Danielle, with what you're doing, your loops are all the same size. Even Vanessa pointed out, you are making it look easy. Valerie, I can see her nodding with me. My first project will probably have 10 wonky loops, all different sizes, but I'm sure I'll get better using this new technique over time.
Well, let's go through it slowly and see what I'm doing, because sometimes I don't think about it.
Yeah, do it really slow.
So let's get the process figured out here. So I know for sure the couple of things that I'm always thinking about when I first start at this point is I'm thinking about that height. And there's that first part of the tool there. It's just the perfect height. And then when I bend this forward, I'm doing 90 degrees. And then I bring my tool up like that and I slide it back. You can't always get very far. See, I get about that far. And then I start bringing it up. And then I might even slide it back just a smidge more. So I'm working about a quarter down the height of the tool. And I'm just going to bring that all the way around until it meets. And then turn it again. And then there's that thing I do where you see how it's at an angle here. I'm going to try to make that focus better. I'll bring it down. My goal being that this is kind of almost 90 degrees to my stone. And I really think the trick here, so I mean, you'll see a lot of people, they'll have it on the tool here and they'll start doing their wrap. Whenever I do that, personally, my loop becomes a different shape. It might become like oval-ish or something. It could be that I'm not holding the tool properly or something that I'm not doing. But what works for me is I love that loop and I don't want it to change. So now I'm just going to lock it in.
Danielle,
And
your
also,
timing for that comment was perfect because someone just said that their loops often end up looking like goose eggs.
yeah, I have that same exact problem. If I work my wrap, if I do this, if I've got it on the tool and I start trying to bring this around, because watch, it starts to move. And even if I use a tool to help me, the other thing that happens is my wraps end up lower than I want them to be. And things start shifting around and moving. It doesn't make a huge difference, but it makes enough of a difference that I notice it. And so I also just feel like I have a stronger hand and I have more control of what. You can see that guy started to move again. My loop relative to my stone is no longer in a straight line. So I want to put that back in a straight line. And if I want it to stay like that, this will help me. But I already kind of created more space than I wanted because my wrap's higher than it would have otherwise been. But let's see. So I got an iffy amount of height here. I could do a third. I think it's safe to do a third. It's but yeah, so I'm not sure if working it on the round caused that or not. But even just that first wrap, it's okay, you know, but it's got 3 wraps now, which I did accidentally earlier too. So I'm not 100% sure if it causes it, but that's just how I ended up doing my loops. Let's make another one. And another thing that I'm doing here, and it's kind of like a housekeeping issue, but because if you have pets or little kids, those little pookies of wire, I promise they're going to find their way to the floor. They always do. I throw them away in the moment. Like I don't let them out. They're not on the mat. So you'll see me dump them into my, like off camera here. I found this in the Michaels section of the garden. It's a bucket, a tin bucket. I also use it to photograph earrings. Anyway, I toss all my little cuts in there, like in the actual moment that I cut them. So I know there's no mystery ones floating. no, that still came out pretty good. So I don't like that I can see that tail there, but I'm gonna tell the perfectionist in me to get over it. All right, and so one more. I'm gonna go super slow on this one. And we're great on time, so I could even do it again. But again, you're just gonna work it at the tip of the tool here, which is about the height of, I really want it to be about the height. Yeah, Cindy, you know me. Cindy B knows me well. Yep. So I bent this forward like that. And then I'm going to take the tool. It was like this, right? I'm going to bring it 90 degrees and start working that loop around my pliers about a quarter of the way back. Bring that around. And then switching to chain nose pliers here. And I'm going to get my round nose and use them to help me wrap. There we go. And I like that one a lot better. I feel like I just really like the look of the two wraps. Flush cutting, again, I'm holding on to that end part that I'm cutting off. I'm holding it. I'm gonna get rid of it now. And the tail here. Spin test. I love doing the spin test because you can see the sparkle. All right, so once you've got that, all you'll need now is chain nose pliers and the turning kind. If you have this kind, again, this is optional. If you have square nose with jump rings, I like these for jump rings, but these work fine too. Jump rings are here. Those open. So all of jump rings, they're all gonna have like a little seam. I always find the seam and I point it away from me. And so if you're working with these square nose, you can hold them like that. If you have the regular chain nose, just hold them like that. So the seam is pointing away from you. And then take those bent nose or another set of chain nose and open it laterally. So you're preserving the roundness. The round shape is not getting distorted, but you get to open it. And I'm going to switch to these little square ones here. I'm going to pick up one of my stones, my center stone, and get my chain. And if you want to really like be super perfectionist, you can make sure the front part of your wrap, the prettiest side, is your front facing one by putting it on the jump ring this way. And I'll show you that in just a sec here. My chain tends to get tangled when I store it. So I actually use these cards. They come with these little, well, I just flung that one, but they come with these little bendy thingies. You can just keep that. You can put your chain back on it because it does have 3. And then find your midpoint. What I did is actually clasped it. Let me do that really quick. Okay. So I'm holding it, the camera is going to be a little close, but I'm holding this end. Just bring it up. There's my center. Get my jump ring back. So that's my center link right there. Oops. It was my center link. And there we go. I think I use the tool because it makes it a little easier, but you could also just use your hands to try to get it through your link. There it is. Okay. And just wiggle it. Now I'm through the link, but I lost my bicone. There we go. Okay. And so laterally, sorry, I'm just going to close this up again. So can everyone see the seam there? I'm going to bring it to a close. All right, so there, once you work the center, if you get the center one on first, it's super easy because then you know, skip a link, do your next link, skip a link, and then add to the next link. And then we'll just keep going up like that. So let me know if anyone has any questions about attaching them. I'm gonna do just a couple more. And then I'll finish this one.
Not question, Danielle, but a comment that Sharon didn't realize that the jump ring would go through the chain.
You know, it's a tighter fit than I'd hoped. I could have sized up my chain one size, but I really do like a dainty fine chain. And so I kind of just insisted upon it going through, and it goes through fine. But the thing is you just have to kind of straighten it out. What blocks it from being able to go through initially is that the surrounding links that are in it, you just have to get them out of the way. And so I went through this one, skipping this one, going through the next one. Oops. And definitely, you know, sizing up the chain. If this is something that is super annoying when you're working with it, you can size up your chain, no problem. But it does fit, and it's kind of worth the effort to me because I like this chain. It's the one that caught my eye on the wall. And the designer in me versus the teacher in me. So the designer in me really wanted the look. And the teacher in me was like, please get the larger chain. We have to demo this live. And I'm like, no, we can do it. So yeah, it just takes a little bit of couple of attempts, I guess. But it was worth it to me because I really want the crystal to be the focal. And if I had a bigger chain, my crystal would be, you know, next to my chain, but not, sorry, I'm off camera there, not standing out as much. So that's why I did that. But there are so many beautiful options at Michael's for different kinds of chain. This is just the one that, again, the one that I really liked. And then I was going to show you guys one more idea. We've got about 10 minutes and I was excited about it. It was something that I kind of wish I thought of it earlier. But I always have these ideas like right the days before class. So let's see. This would be very beautiful birthstone jewelry. Oh, and I wanted to mention also one other thing. Let me show you this really quick. I am hanging them on the bottom link of the link. It will not have the freedom to move after this. So skipping one, if these guys were hanging here, so I'm not going to put it up here, right? I'm going to try to get it to fit on this side. Oh, wow. Look at that. It went through without me having to try again. There. That's just 3 stones on for now, but it'd be the same thing over and over again there where we just open up that jump ring and attach it to the skip a link and go into the next link. And eventually you'd get one that is like that. Another cool thing you could do is you could layer it. Like you could have a shorter one and a longer one. And you could bring these chains together next to each other. And that would be super cute. And so then I'm going to take off the necklace I'm wearing really quick and show you something else I did with my extra bicones. So that's the back of it. This is the same chain. I just did a little wrapped thing. I learned this from watching Sarah Lovecraft. She does a lot of these kind of like wire swirls. And I think she actually just did a Michael's class with some swirls. It wasn't this exact version, but it was something that, you know, gave me the thought. And you can just cut that chain right in the center. So what I did is I took this chain and I looked for this end and I cut the very center link. And then I did my connection. And what I used for this wrap is I used 22 gauge German style. and I accidentally bought half round, which ended up being really cool. So it looks neat, doesn't it? It's just like, and this was super fast and easy to make. It was just a little swirly thing. We've got a few minutes. I don't know. Carmi, would it be okay to demo it really quick?
I think
It only takes.
no.
What's that?
I think you definitely have the moment to do it.
All right. I kind of wish I thought of this first because it's easier than the head pins.
Danielle, I was just thinking how if you're making all of your bicones ahead of time with the wrap, you might as well make a few extra and have the matching earrings.
Yes. Yeah, these would be such a beautiful cluster earring. That's the other thing I was thinking, is hanging them on that chain. Can you imagine them just like dangling down like that? And
Yes,
like,
I was actually just thinking of one bicone hanging, but definitely hung off the chain will be fantastic.
it will look like a grape, like hanging on a vine. You could do all purple. I think somebody's done that before. I've seen it somewhere. You could even put like some check glass leaves in it. Make it look really cool. So I'm going to bring these over. And for length, I just cut the length of my mat, which here, looking at this, is 2, 3, 4. It's about 11 inches, 11 or 12 inches or so. And you can cut a little more. It depends how many crystals you're putting on. So flush cutters there. And you can smooth it out if you want to. And so if you look, it's hard to see from where I am right now, but if you're working with the half round, the shinier side is your flat side, and the side that optically to you will look matter is the round side. And so I want the round nose pliers to be on the flat side when I start making my top loop. I'm working about 1/3 to 1 inch from the top of that long strand I made. We're just going to make a loop right now. And I've got the round side facing me. So actually, sorry, flat side facing you. The round side is over here. And bend that forward. So now this is the flat side, bringing those up 90 degrees. Bring it around. The goal being is that my flat side is on the inside of my plier. It's almost imperceptible, or just work with a round wire and don't worry about it. But I accidentally grabbed this wire, so that's why you're seeing this one. But I like it. It was a happy accident. I'm gonna move it around. And again, that's that shiny you're seeing, that's inside of the half round. It ended up having a really very cool look when I wrapped it around the bicones. Okay, so let's trim that and flatten it. And let's see, I'm gonna grab. Okay, let's string on. How many did I do on this one? I did 3, 4, 5. Okay. Bring that down. And let's make another loop here. And again, my flat side is the one here. Flat side is facing me. Push forward. Bring it up. Loop around. Okay. And then I'm going to grab my chain nose pliers to hold my loop. I'm just gently holding it. Make a wrap here. And one more. I'm going to make a few wraps on this side because I have to do a wrap over here. So I want it to be a little bulky. All right. Okay, so there we go. So you just have 2 wraps. And I made this side look a little bulky because when I take this wire over to this side, it's gonna have to wrap around a few times. So I've kind of wanted them to match. So that's why I went a little crazy on this side. This again, bring that over your bicone. And then go in between the bicones for one loop. Go over your bicone. In between them for one loop. And then over it again. In between for one loop. Over it. In between for one loop. One more, going over the bicone. And let's just go once, twice, and trim. So again, that was about 11 inches of half round wire. And I have 5 bicones that I used. And I'm just gonna flatten that down. But that is so pretty, the way that that looks. And then all I did is I took the chain. Let's grab another little, oh, this is all wrapped up. But I always try to show it to you guys in the packaging so you see exactly what I got. Let's get this one on. I've got my other one still, so I can put my other chains onto it. I kind of destroyed that one. But here's my chain. Clasp side. Find the midpoint this way. So there's my midpoint. Go ahead and cut it. Grab those jump rings again. You'll need one for each side, 1, 2. And I would just open and attach here. Does anyone have any questions about how that is done? I won't make you watch me try to attach that chain, but I would just finesse that together like that. And then there's your necklace, and you'll have that.
Danielle, just from the sidebar, it was a great extra thing to show. It's really pretty and beautiful. Wanted to let you know that many people are wishing you a happy Mother's Day.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Wishing each other happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day, guys.
And Danielle, I don't know if you want to put out next week's project really quick, but we're right on time.
Perfect. Okay. Next week we have the flowing crystal bracelet, which is really fun. We're getting some bead weaving back. We did all wire today, so I know a lot of you guys will feel ready for some bead weaving. And this is just a really fun technique. It's going to be done in a few steps. I'll have some, worked ahead, jump ahead, warp speed kind of stuff to show you, because we have to create this tab. And then you create each of these. And then you come back down, weave back up, and I'll show you how to join this up here and start creating herringbone on top of it. Really cool technique that has a lot of versatile spins that you can do. And it's stash busting because you can use all your beads on it. You can just mix up all your leftover crystals and everything. So that's next Friday. Yeah, next Friday. And then the Friday after that, we have one of the workshops. And the workshop is going to be all about fringe earrings and crystal glamour. I had a lot of fun with these. These are bicones, and they are made with our beautiful Czech seed beads. And then these ones are made with delicas. And I use the Preciosa rounds. So this is like an amazing gift for someone if you're looking for something really just wow and special. You're getting into the realm of some expensive jewelry when you make something like this. I would sell a piece like this for well over $100, probably 120 to 150 is what I would charge for one of these, because it's got so much crystal on it. And the stitching took a very long time. I'll show you how I did the stitching, a couple different ways you can do the stitching. Sometimes when you're making designs like this, it can get kind of monotonous, and even just changing up the way you did this part can make it feel interesting to you to make, if you're somebody who makes jewelry to sell and you're making lots of them. I find making these with peyote stitches faster than doing brick. So I'm going to show that in the workshop. I thought it would be a cool little tip. Brick stitch is a completely awesome way to make these. Just sometimes our hands want to do something different. So yeah, that's the one after that. And then we'll kick off, after that, we'll kick off June with that crystal bracelet that Carmi showed in her presentation, which is a right angle weave with bicones, because you knew when you saw these, we're going to do some right angle weave, right? For sure. So that's the next one coming up after that. And then those sun catcher earrings, where we're going to brick stitch inside of a hoop. And you see the little crystals in there. All that stuff's coming up. Yeah, I see Cindy saying she loves right angle weave. Yeah, me too, Cindy. I love it. All right, so that's all I got for today. I'm wondering if hopefully I'll see you guys all next week, and of course for the workshop at the end of the month too. And I'm wishing you all a great, happy Mother's Day and a wonderful weekend ahead. All right, happy beading, guys. Bye.